Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to this back to school motivational chat. This is a live chat, so I'm excited to have this. This is going to be the first of four chats that we will have throughout this school year. The focus of this live chat is to number one, encourage students to be high achievers and to value their academic performance. But specifically, this chat is targeted towards young men. For those that are in the field of education or those that follow educational research and data, you know that young men are at a high risk of not completing high school or at a higher risk of not entering college. And for those that do enter, are at a high risk of not achieving or receiving a bachelor's degree. And so we want to make sure that we are targeting or creating a focus around young men because boys also need attention. They need to be seen. They need to be valued and know that they have a space in education just like everyone else. So while you're in here, I see people already in the live. Feel free to throw in. If you're on here for your child, drop in what grade and their age. You can also drop in where you guys are watching from. Um, and then we will start with some small introductions. We really want this to be a really interactive conversation, so we'll do some talking and some sharing, but we definitely want to hear from you all. I'll definitely be active in the chat on YouTube, so feel free to do so as well. You can drop comments as we're sharing. You can also ask questions as we're sharing, and as we go through this next hour, we will make sure that we are being attentive to the chat and addressing whatever needs that you have in that form. So as you see, I just dropped something in the chat right now. And then also feel free to share this live with other people. Share it on your social media platform, share it on Instagram, share it on Facebook, TikTok, wherever you think there are people that you know that have young children that could benefit from watching this, kids in high school, middle school, elementary school, even individuals who may be in college. We're not counting them out. We know that there is a need to support young men in college to ensure that they are acclimated, that they're learning, that they are succeeding, but more importantly, that they're getting that degree that they ultimately seek. So I'm going to start with introduction of myself. My name is Dr. Christopher Holmes. I am the founder of Fully Engaged Education. I'm the chief consultant. It is an independently owned education consulting company where I support schools and districts across this country, K-12, with number one, focusing on the needs of students to create high achievers and students that are growing, to support teachers to be high performing and focusing on meeting the standards across their state, or if they're using national standards, and also focusing on instructional leadership to support leaders in understanding what their needs are across their school, or supporting superintendents in understanding what the needs are across the district, being very focused, being intentional, being consistent in that work to make sure that we can see outcomes year end for the students. And so I'm excited to be able to share this space with you all and to share this live with you all as well. Also in this live, I have a couple of friends of mine. I say friends loosely. They're more like brothers. They are brothers. And they too have some journeys through this educational space that I think they're important for young men to hear. So the first person I'm going to bring to the platform is Mr. Namdi. Mr. Namdi is a dynamic young man in his own right. He is doing some amazing things in his field, and I'm excited to have him share because his story is nothing like my story. It's a total different story, but it is a story that I think many can relate to. So I'm going to bring him to the stage and just let him introduce himself, and then we'll move on to our next panelist.
All right. What's happening, guys? Like Brother Holmes said, first of all, thank you guys for having me. It's a privilege to be here. I always relish in any opportunity I have to get in front of young, aspiring students who are excited about learning and advancing themselves in their educational career. So it's really an honor to be here. Uh, Again, my name is Mr. Namdi. I am the director of school-based programs for Central Georgia Boys and Girls Clubs. I started that position back in 2022. And so I'm coming up on my third year of programming with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Georgia. It's my first role as a director. We do a lot of college and career readiness training, a lot of student success efforts and services for public school students. It is a federally funded program. So we do a lot of state guidelines. We follow a lot of state guidelines and state stipulations for how we serve our kids. But we're really active in the community. We're really active outside of the classroom. Uh, this program for me has been extremely life changing in that I've been able to reach and engage with kids in a way that I haven't been able to do before. So I'm excited to be here and talk to you guys a little bit more about that journey, and I hope that you guys can take something away from this. Thank you.
Yeah, I gotta work out my mute, right? I'm gonna bring up Mr. Hubert Thomas. He is our last panelist that's gonna be participating in the live. He too has a story, so I'll let him introduce himself briefly, and we'll kind of get into like what our journeys are, and then we'll start taking questions towards the end. Mr. Thomas, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Hubert Thomas. I'm definitely excited to be here. Professionally, I currently work as a data analyst for Home Depot. Prior to that, I was working as a program manager for the United States Air Force. But I also work as a program director with I9 Sports here in Henry County, where I work with a lot of different youth and basically teach the kids about how to be good people through sport. I'm extremely passionate about giving back to the youth and mentorship and just helping people, live their lives to the fullest to become the best people that they can be. So definitely excited to be here, speak on my K through 12 experience, and look forward to the conversation that we'll be having today.
Back on mute, brother. It may just mute you every time you can.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
I'll get it right. I'll
all
get it
good.
right. For those of you that don't know, I grew up in Columbus, Georgia. I currently live in Atlanta, so it's about an hour and a half southwest of Atlanta. I grew up initially in a home with two parents until I was 5, and my parents divorced when I was 5 years old. And so it was just my mom and then the four of us. I have two brothers, and then I have a sister, and I'm the youngest of the four. I also have an older sister, and we all kind of became really, really close. But my mom is from a very small town outside of Macon, Forsyth, Georgia, and then my dad is from another small town called Manchester, Georgia. So two individuals from really small towns, rural areas, fell in love and got married. Um, Now, my mom's story through education is a very interesting one. That story is also
Uh-oh. Maybe lost him.
Yeah.
Let me text him because I know he's
not sure what happened. But anyway, you can find my mom's story on my YouTube page as well. She has a very fascinating story talking about growing up through K-12 in the world of integration. And she was the first high school class to integrate her high school in 1972. Now, granted, desegregation happened long before that, but that was when they decided to do it. But anyway, she had an experience, right? Imagine growing up in a segregated K-8 experience and then integrating in 9th grade. My father, very, very, very small town, very segregated as well. And so, the information they were able to share with me was totally different. All of my public school experience was all integrated, although most of my schools were majority minority, but we did have a diverse student population that was mixed with Asian and white and Hispanic, because if you know anything about Columbus, it is close to a military base. So you get a lot of different people coming from a lot of different places. And so my mom told me one thing about going to school: go and do what your teachers tell you to do and behave. That was it. There were no expectations centered around like do your best, um, always perform well. It wasn't that I want to for you to come home with A's and B's. I just kind of did that on my own, and then that became the expectation. But school was a very unique place for me, but it was also a safe place. Most of my teachers were white, but they were very loving people. Now, did they love me because they felt sorry for me, or did they love me because they loved me? That I don't know. I just know I felt love. And so I really became very committed to school because I felt like the people were committed to me. And that was elementary through middle school, even through high school. And, by the time I got in middle school, I started playing sports. So I had a different level of commitment because I was committed to the academic part because I had always been successful. But then I became committed to the athletic part because I was also successful there too. And so I had it was a twofold reason why I enjoyed going to school. I had a lot of friends. I was very social in school. But it wasn't until I graduated or until I got ready for graduation that it really hit me when it comes to being challenged. And this is what I want to encourage, all of you young men, as you're going through school. Don't just simply receive or take what people are giving you. My teachers were great people in terms of providing me with support and comfort, but they never challenged me. I never was challenged academically until I got in college. And so my freshman year in college was a struggle because I went through kindergarten through 12th grade making all A's. I graduated high school with a 4.3. I was number 3 in my class. And so I felt that I was going into college and it was going to be a breeze because I had never struggled academically. And then freshman year in college hit me like a ton of bricks because all of my classmates knew a lot of information that I had no clue what they were talking about. My professors were talking like a foreign language. And so part of that was they didn't challenge me, but I also didn't ask to be challenged more. I just kind of took the worksheets and I just did them. I didn't have to think about it. It literally came right out of the book. And for you guys, there is really no book. All you have to do is just Google it, or some of you guys are AI and answers. There's nothing happening up here that's really making you think critically. You're just copying and pasting. And so one thing I can say is, or I will tell you is, put forth your best effort and make your teachers work. Make them teach you, make them challenge you, make their jobs hard. Because at the end of the day, you are worth it. And you won't always be in 5th grade. You won't always be in 8th grade. At some point, you have to accelerate and go somewhere else. And that's more than likely college, or that's going into the military, or that's going to the workforce. And somebody's going to require something more of you. And I would love for you to have already experienced that challenge earlier on. So when you get to that next level, it won't be something that's so eye-opening that you're struggling to now compete and to work in a space where you feel like people don't see you as able and capable to do things that I know that you can do each and every day. And so I had to set some expectations for myself very early on. Not that my mom did not want to, she did not know how to, because that was not her experience. My mom did not go to college. My dad did not go to college. I was a first generation college student in my family, the first to graduate. Or first to go and to graduate. And so I really carried that with a lot of responsibility because I wanted to be that person for my family, because I knew I had nieces and nephews that were coming behind me. But I also had some friends that didn't make it along the way. I always go back to one of my best friends growing up. And we were in neighborhood playing. It was great. But when it came to school, school was not a place where he excelled. He did not like school, and he was always in trouble. And I never forget, in 7th grade is the first time, keyword was first time, he got locked up. And in our 40s, this same friend has been in jail more than he has been free. He has consecutively gone to jail over and over and over and over again. So in his 40s, he has spent 30 something years of his life confined, and about 10 years of his life free to make a decision. And so that's not the kind of life for anyone. And so that is filled with making good decisions early on, because there are some decisions that you make them sometimes it's kind of hard to recover from. And so take that into consideration too. I was one of the lucky ones. Although my mom didn't push the education, she did push responsibility and accountability, and she held me to that daily. And so some of the work that you guys have to do is some of your parents' work, but some of the work that you have to do is also your work. And so you have to bear the responsibility of growing up and sharing the load of raising yourself as your parents are raising you at the same time. Okay. So that's my K-12 story. That I always feel seen, yes. That I always feel heard, yes. That I always feel valued academically. Looking back, the answer is no, because I know they could have pushed me more. And that 4.3 really should have meant that I had a 4.3 and not really, honestly, it was probably somewhere else, maybe a 3.6 with the kind of work I was doing, because I just wasn't being pushed and I wasn't being challenged. But a part of that is because of what they saw. They felt like if they could get this young black boy out of high school, they were doing me a favor. They weren't. They were really setting me back and setting me up for 4 or 5 years of very difficult work in terms of defining who I was and what I was really able to do. And as in K-12, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help you solidify your identity, know who you are, know what your gifts and what your talents are. And that's what we work hard to try to do each and every day. And so that's what you're challenging your teachers to do. And also, this is what you're challenging your parents to do too. Help you come to terms with who you are and what you're gifted to do in this world with this life that you've been given. All right. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to pass it over. Anybody want to take it over from there?
Yeah, I mean, I can. So, let me speak on my K through 12 experience. So, very similar to kind of like how you started out. I'm from a very small town, Bainbridge, Georgia. But I'm the eldest of 3 kids, and I happen to be the eldest child of an educator. So my mother taught for many, many years. I mean, she's taught everywhere between kindergarten and 8th grade, but she primarily taught kindergarten and 2nd grade. And my father was not an educator, but he was also very involved in the school. And my father, being from this small town, also was one of the first people to integrate the schools. In 1972 was when he graduated. And if I have my facts correct, he would have been the first Black student that spent all 4 years in an integrated school. So that was also a big deal. My middle school was the high school that he would have attended, and that's where he started his education at. But the town did have a decent mix of people in it. So going to school, being a part of athletics and different programs like that, I did have an issue with finding an identity K through 12 because I was placed in what they would have called a gifted program. But for me, I was the only Black boy in the program. And so although I was in athletics and I participated and did very well with athletics, and the teams were primarily guys that looked like me, but I didn't feel as though I had the same connection to them on the team because I was in classes not with them. Now, I did very well in school. I mean, I was making pretty much all A's, maybe a few B's here and there, graduated with AP distinction and all of those things. However, similar to Chris's point, I don't believe that I was pushed. I came from a program that was not really funded that well. And so the focus was getting people through school. If we can just get these kids to graduation, and I feel as though that wasn't a worry for a student like me. So I just kind of got swept under the rug a little bit. And it wasn't that I had educators that didn't care. They just knew that I was going to show up. I was going to do the things that I was supposed to do, that I wasn't going to cause any trouble and mischief in the classes. and that I was performing well. The things that they didn't see, I would say, were the lack of effort that was coming in. I'd have all my homework completed before I even left school that day. I would take tests just remembering what we talked about in class. And I believe because the focus was so much more on the other students, that students like me were able to just get by with minimal effort. And so after graduating from high school and going to college, because that's what I felt like I needed to do, I really, really struggled those first couple of years in college, because it wasn't that I didn't want to succeed. I absolutely wanted to be successful, and I worked really hard, but I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to put the right energy into the right places in order to set myself up to be successful. So one of the things that I really wanted to make sure that I spoke about today was that results always matter, right? That A, that B, you know, that does matter at the end of the day, what's coming home on the report card, but your effort will always matter more than instant perfection or what you see at the end of the day. Because if you have to work your butt off to receive a C, which is a passing grade, and we always want to strive to be better. You know, we want those A's and B's, but I would make the argument that a C that you had to really work hard for and study and grind built a certain character, and built certain habits that will help you be more successful in life, rather than just waking up and receiving an A off of something that you really didn't have to work hard to do. So that's what I'll leave you all with for right now. And Mr. Namdi can tell us about his experience K through 12.
Thank you. Thank you. So my experience coming through grade school was a little similar, but also very different in a couple of ways. The first being that my parents, like Chris Holmes mentioned, were first generation college attendees. My mom was the first person in her family to ever go to school and graduate, and she graduated with 2 degrees. My father, who is a migrant, he's born and raised in Nigeria, Abia, came to the U.S. to go to school and get his degree, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to finish because his father got really sick and passed away before he could graduate. Uh, so, kind of, my parents were the they were the uh, they kind of set the bar for what would be the expectation for myself and for ultimately my younger sister would be moving forward. Um, because my father was unable to finish, I was the first male in my family to ever attend and graduate from college. But because my mom was able to achieve and succeed educationally at such a high level with such limited resources, there was very little room for me to be lax about how I took on my education, my academics growing up. Um, I was one of those kids who was fortunate enough to be labeled "quote unquote" gifted at an early age. And the funny thing about labels is that when labels are placed on you, especially early, not only do those labels come with expectations, but they can also kind of curtail your mindset to what exactly is required of you in terms of expectations. And so my mom never liked to use the term gifted because she never wanted those kinds of labels to make me feel like I didn't need to work as hard, if not harder, than everyone else. So, as far as me being challenged in school, my mom made a very, very, very concerted effort to make sure that at every stage I was being challenged, and that almost that honestly became difficult for me at some stages in my life. But like I tell my students and like I tell my parents, when you have someone in your life who is willing to push you, who is willing to put forth the effort to ensure that you're operating within uh, 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 the maximum of your capacity, of your ability, then those are the people in your life that you need to cherish and keep close, because those are the people who want to see you do the best and be the best versions of yourself. Um, a lot of parents that I come into contact with at work will often tell me that, hey, Mr. Namdi or Mr. O, I'm pushing my son, and I want him to be independent. And so I don't push him as hard. I kind of ease up on him at times because I don't want to be that parent that nags and that parents that, and I say, stop right there. All right. Uh, as your son is a young adult, your son is still a student, or your child is still a student, they have not yet developed the ability to push themselves, um, or at least not to the extent that they can be operating at their best selves. So, what you're doing for them now, of course, you may get pushback, but I can promise you that when your child is of age, when your child has reached the end of their educational, their academic journey, their professional, their career journey, they will thank you for everything for all the effort that you put into them in terms of pushing them and making them move forward. Uh, when I meet with my kids and we're doing college readiness, I let them know that there are four things that you typically need uh, coming out of your secondary education in order to transition into higher education, into college. One of which is a strong GPA. And so, what I'll ask them is, so what does your GPA tell a college or a university about you as a student? And the hands will shoot up. The first thing they'll say is that your GPA is going to tell the college how smart you are. That is not the case. That's not true. What your GPA will tell your college or university is how much effort that you have invested into your academics. Because you can be labeled gifted. You can be one of the smartest students in your class, in your grade level, in your school, in your district. But if you do not put forth that effort, if you do not turn in your assignments, if you are not actively participating in class, if you're not passing tests, then your grades will suffer. Your GPA will reflect that, no matter how smart you are. All right. So, that being said, when you graduate, your graduating GPA is going to tell that college, it's going to tell that admissions representative how much of an advantage this person took of their education, how much of an effort they were able to put into the classroom each day. And that's extremely important because what these colleges want to know is that when they accept you onto their campus, that you're going to be able to perform and you're going to be able to earn a degree and you're going to be able to be sent out into the world, into the workforce, and represent that university in a way that will bring more students in. That's what these colleges are looking for. So, regardless of your labels, and because that coin is two-sided, even if you are not the smartest kid in your courses, if you're not the smartest kid in your class, if you make an effort, if you put the time and you put the discipline into your academics, then you can achieve, you can succeed. If you study, if you form a good relationships with your instructors, you ask questions, then you can learn, you can pass tests, and you can be successful. So that again is what your GPA will tell a college about you. And so having that kind of etched into my brain as I matriculated through grade school, and then of course having my mom there to keep me on my toes is kind of what pushed me to where I am today, to where I can sort of look back now and pull other students up. It is a very arduous process if you take it on the right way. If school is easy, then you're not doing it right. Okay, school should be hard, school should be challenging. All right, if you're not being challenged, then you should take it upon yourself to be vocal about that and go find that challenge. All right, because when it comes time for your parents to cut you loose, which is what my mom and my dad ultimately had to do. They had to be confident that I had been prepared, that I had been challenged, and that I knew how to deal with challenges in order to take them on my own. Okay. And so that is what you all should be focusing on right now, being challenged and being able to meet challenge with a certain level of optimism, a certain level of confidence, and to push through.
All right. Let's get into some of this. We touched on a lot of things. So let's start with this first one. I think we all kind of shared this. So the first thing I want to kind of approach is kids need to know that they have a cheerleader. Every kid needs a cheerleader because going through school as well as going through life, you need to know that somebody has your back. You know, for me, my first cheerleader was my mom. My mom just believed in me. She pushed me. And once I set the stage for what she knew I could do, she expected nothing less. If I would have started school making B's and C's, she would have been like, you know what? That's my baby. He's a B or C student, but you keep it right there. But I came in the door making all A's. That's what she expected. So when I brought a B home, she wanted to know what was going on because I wasn't a B student. My teachers were my cheerleaders. I mean, I know, although I talked about not being challenged, they expected A's from me. That's academically, but then they also expected my behavior to be top tier as well. Like my teachers expected me to be the model student. They expected me to be the leader. And if I acted out of character, they would quickly address me and pull me back in and say, hey, that's not who you are. We expect more from you. And those were their words. We expect more from you. And so I went through there knowing that year after year, I was coming into the next grade level with a set of expectations that I had to live up to the bar and that these cheerleaders were rooting me on every step of the way. And then ultimately, I became my biggest cheerleader. And that's where I want most of you all to get to. If nobody else believes in you, you have to believe in yourself because you are the priority. And when you know that, nobody can take you off of the pedestal and nobody can put you on one. You're there to stay. And that's kind of where you got to get to. But in the beginning, you need somebody that has your back. And if it's not your parents, it may be your teachers, it may be an uncle, it may be a grandparent, it may be a church member, it may be your godparent. Sometimes it may be even your older sibling that's saying, hey, that's not how we operate. That's not how we roll. You need to do X, Y, and Z. So I'll throw it back and open it up the floor. I know you guys talked about parents, but was there anybody else in your lives, in your K-12 journey that was a cheerleader for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was involved in sports too, like Mr. Thomas talked about, and I was also involved in Boy Scouts. I started Boy Scouting when I was 8 years old and went on to earn my Eagle Scout rank, which is the highest rank in scouting back in 2012. My scout masters, my scout leadership were some of those guys who were mostly responsible for teaching me life skills outside of the classroom, things that I would use now in my adult life. And then, of course, we had your high adventure skills that they were teaching me as well. So I was learning how to build fires and pitch tents and all those good things that you kind of see on television. But when I had issues that, for whatever reason, I felt like I couldn't bring up in my household, those were a group of dads, or if my dad was out of the country and I couldn't get a hold of him, those were the guys I could kind of lean on and ask for mentorship or for guidance or for counsel when I was dealing with things that were kind of stressful to me. And programs like scouting aren't, readily accessible in everyone's community, but like Dr. Holmes mentioned, you guys do have your teachers, you do have your counselors, you do have adults in your schools and in your communities that are or that have made their way through the same thing that you're going through right now, and they are ready and willing to help you guys. It's just a matter of you being vocal and you seeking them out and not being afraid to ask those questions. But yeah, scouts, coaches, uh, even a couple of my good friends. Dr. Holmes mentioned earlier about having a good social circle, a good friend group, having peers that you can sort of lean on, who are on similar tracks as yours, who can provide that sort of positive influence for you and kind of lift you up whenever you're feeling down. Having people like that close to you are going to be extremely important as you guys sort of make your way through grade school, because those people shape who you are and you shape who they are. So uh, I'll pass it along.
So yeah, what I'll say is definitely a similar experience, like because I definitely had both of my parents, right? And similar to what Chris mentioned earlier about, I came home with A's, and that's what my parents expected. But with my mom being an educator, she always kind of touched on what effort looks like for different people. And so for me, the expectation was A's every time. But that wasn't necessarily the case for everybody in my household. Because for me, I can make A's without trying. But I had a brother who, I mean, if he had a B or even a C, it's like, hey, he was putting in effort to get that. And we're going to applaud the effort. We're not going to accept failure nor mediocrity, but we want that effort to be there first and foremost. But outside of my house, I had a mentor. He still mentors me to this day, my elementary school principal, who was just awesome. And I mean, I remember he was a little intimidating at first because if he caught you slipping, you just hear a deep voice saying, son, and and you just knew to get right whenever you heard that. But I mean, he ended up being one of my track coaches in my high school years, and just a lot of the pieces that he was feeding into us in elementary school carried over to what he was teaching on the track. And he was one of those coaches that also just didn't care about your performance in your sport, but how are you doing in the classroom, because that was what was important. Because all of this is fun and it's extracurricular, but what's going to help you later on in life, what's really going to take you further, when your body changes and you're older and you're no longer able to perform this particular sport, or if you don't go and play college ball or whatever, what are you going to have to lean on other than your mind? And so I was introduced to other programs. I mean, my mother being an educator in the same system, and it was a very small town. So I won't necessarily say that they were cheerleaders, but there were plenty of people that were spectators and watching my performance and making sure that if my performance was not up to par, that they had no problem letting my mother know what was going on. So I also had that to motivate me as well. But I'll lastly say the programs in the school. My freshman year, I had a really, really good guidance counselor. Her name is Calvine Rollins. She ended up leaving after my freshman year, and she went on for a bigger role over the state of Georgia. But she made sure that I was taken care of prior to leaving before my freshman year. She got me involved with different programs, one of which is a TRIO program, Educational Talent Search, where I was able to participate in Quiz Bowl. And not only was I able to participate in Quiz Bowl, but it connected me with other students that looked like me, that were in situations like mine, that were in different schools within the neighboring counties. And we would meet and do college prep things, but they also took us to experience things that our schools may not have been able to. For example, I was able to ride up to Atlanta and go to a Hawks game, and I was able to tour different colleges. They paid for several different college applications. They paid for me to be able to take my ACT and SAT, just things that may not have been as easy to accomplish without that type of support. But not only was the support financial and them physically showing me things, places that I could go, things that I could be, but I mean, you could absolutely tell that the program and the people that were running that program absolutely cared about the students that were in it and wanted us to be successful in life. So those were some of the biggest cheerleaders that I had growing up.
I was thinking about something as you were talking. I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen that movie Akeelah and the Bee.
Yeah.
We took a group of kids out to New Orleans last summer, and on the ride up, we were in a coach bus, and I put on Akeelah and the Bee, and none of the kids had ever seen it before. All right, we old brothers, we old. But in the movie Akeelah and the Bee, if you haven't seen it, it's this young girl. I think she's in middle school, and she's a phenomenal speller, and she's headed to the National Spelling Bee, and she's really intimidated by the competition, and she's trying to prepare for the bee, and she has help from a coach. But another thing she does as she's trying to get ready is that, and you can kind of see it in the montage throughout the movie, she starts using everybody in the community. She's walking down the street and people are helping her with her sight words. She's at the laundromat. She's at the bus stop, and everybody, the entire community is kind of rallying behind her and pushing her to help her be successful in this National Spelling Bee. So again, just remembering that you guys have a community around you who all want to see you guys be successful. So don't ever be afraid to visit your local recreation center. If you have a boys and girls club or a YMCA, there are people all over your community, organizations, programs all over your community that want to see you do well. Just kind of have to put yourself out there and be vocal about what it is you hope to achieve. And you'll be surprised at how many people will rally behind you and push you to where it is you're trying to go.
Yeah. And that especially goes for the older kids who are watching. So, there are some things that you can get yourselves into, but then that's also a note for parents. Seek out to learn about the opportunities that are available to your younger children. That's not something that they can do, but I promise you, it doesn't matter. I don't care where you live. There are programs out there everywhere. You just got to go and seek them out. People are there waiting to provide you with support and expose your kids to opportunities that will help change the trajectory of their lives. I think as the adults, we have to kind of lead them in that way. And guess what? We're not expecting you to know everything, but we are asking you to seek opportunities that are there, right? Just take a chance to learn something new that maybe you didn't do, but maybe it will be great for your child to do. One of the things I do want to talk about, and we've kind of mentioned this a little bit without saying it, is this idea of labels. And since we're specifically talking about boys, there are a lot of labels that we put on boys in schools that I know are very detrimental. So the first label that we put on boys is that, boys are bad, right? Girls are sweet and kind and sensitive, but boys are bad. And boys can be aggressive, and boys can be intimidating, or boys can be threatening. And that when you get those kind of labels, especially in school, sometimes those labels are hard to shake when that becomes a common belief from everybody. And so one of the things I really encourage students to do is to speak up for themselves. I really believe in self-advocacy. If you're not being treated fairly, reach out to that community that Mr. Nami is talking about and let them know that you don't feel safe or you don't feel heard, or people are saying things about you that are not true. Because the one thing I know about young children, you can advocate, but you can't fight by yourself. You need an adult that's standing side by side that can go into the ring for you and to make sure that people are treating you fairly and not unfairly giving you a label that you don't deserve. And I've seen it happen for kids when they get that one label in second grade. that label carries through third grade, and people are automatically assuming that what they did in second grade, they're going to do in third grade. And I'm telling you, shake those labels off. Don't hold yourself to what other people said about you or what other people believe you to be, or how they expect you to perform, or how they expect you to speak. Everything happens in progression. What you did last year, you won't do this year, or you don't have to do this year if you just make a choice not to do it. You just got to think differently. Don't be under the control of other people's opinion, because it's just that. It's an opinion, and we all have one. And their opinion doesn't have to become a truth, nor does it have to become a fact, only if you allow it to be. And then that dictates everything about you. It dictates how you show up to school. It dictates your effort that Mr. Nami talked about. It dictates how you treat people, not just your teachers, but also your peers. And then it ultimately will impede upon the level of expectation that you have for yourself. Because if other people have higher expectations, but you have lower expectations, you're going to meet the lower bar, because that's what you believe about yourself. So we got to shift up a lot of mindsets. We got to change some of those labels. And then again, we got to shake some of those labels off. Parents, sometimes we put labels on our children. Sometimes those labels start at home, and that's why they go to school doing the things that you said about them, because you told them that they're not smart, or that they're lazy, or they're not capable, or that they just need to just go and sit down and just do the bare minimum. I just want you to just pass the class. If you make a C, I'm happy. And guess what? They're going to meet you right there. They're going to just make the C. They could be very well capable of making A's and B's, but because you expect to see, they give you what you want. And so, I'm always encouraging parents, you should be the biggest cheerleader over anybody. But be careful the words you speak over your children. Each and every day, you want to pour something positive into them to ensure they're going to school, giving their best effort, therefore getting the best outcome. And there is no question about, well, what does this A really represent? That A represents the best effort that they could have possibly given. And in any situation, that's what we want. Have you guys seen labels that you guys, beyond positive labels, were you guys ever labeled negatively in school or by someone else outside of the school?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, so labels do speak volumes, and I mean the positive ones had me thinking a certain way. I mean, once you get labeled as gifted or whatever, you expect to succeed because people expect these things from you, and you start putting that type of pressure on yourself. And sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's not. But like I said, I was the eldest of 3 boys, and I mean, we were pretty close in age. And so the community, I mean, being from a very small town, everything so tight knit, they knew who we were. And it's like, oh, those are those bad boys, they always busy, they always doing stuff. Be careful if all 3 of them together, because they're gonna tear stuff up. And it always made me feel like I had some sort of chip on my shoulder, because me having the identity that I have and knowing myself, I'm like, well, I'm a good student. I don't get in trouble at school. I've taken pride, and I've never had detention. I've never been written up, never had in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, those types of things. And so it always bothered me, especially as I got a little older and could kind of understand the things that were being said about me. It's like, why are you all calling me and my brothers bad so much when, I've seen bad, and I don't think that is us. And so for me, it didn't work out that way. But I know for my youngest brother, who was hearing it a lot, there were definitely moments where it's like, okay, y'all think I'm bad, so I'm gonna show you. And all of that just comes from the negativity that was coming from some of those labels.
Yeah.
Absolutely what you were speaking of us being careful about how we depict the kids in our communities, but also our parents making sure that they pour into us, because if he did not have a mother and father like what we had that was telling him how, you know, all these positive affirmations and setting a list of expectations of this is what we want to see from you, this is what we expect to get from you, and this is where you should put your energy, who knows how he would have ended up. Right now, thankfully, we all did okay, but those negative labels can hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. For me, when it comes to things like labels, I think both parents, teachers, administrators, faculties, what we need to understand is that there are ways for us to offer critiques. There are ways for us to offer even praise without necessarily putting our students in a box. All right, what labels do is they kind of drown us in like this monolithic space where we feel like we can only be one way or do things a certain way, or we feel like we're only being perceived in one way. And that is stifling when it comes to progression and when it comes to growth. I mentioned earlier about being labeled as gifted early. Why my mom stayed so, I think, stayed so hard on me, or was so present, I guess, in my journey is because labels like that have a tendency to make some children complacent, make them feel like they don't need to work as hard. And those kinds of things, again, can be extremely stifling. When you mean to see a child change particular behaviors, particular patterns, mannerisms, and you do so by pointing out their flaws and by categorizing them in certain ways, that will often make a child more resentful toward you and not really open to hearing anything that you have to say, even if you were doing so with the intention of seeing that behavior change. If you mean to change a child's behavior, you can do so by offering them critiques, offering them suggestions that are delivered in a way that's positive, in a way that is motivating. And for our students, Dr. Holmes mentioned self-advocacy. Students, there is no problem because there is a respectful way to do this. If a teacher is, if you do feel like a teacher or an administrator is placing labels on you, negative labels on you, you do have the right to say, Mrs. Who, Mr. Whoever, if you are meaning to offer me some critiques, if you're meaning to tell me how I can improve, then you can do so in a way that is positive. If I'm doing something, if I'm falling short in this way, then you can offer me a means to self-correct without putting me down. All right. So if there's something that you want to see more from me, if there are things about my behavior that you want to change, you can communicate those things to me without placing the label on me.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, I think two parts. So speaking directly to the parents that may be watching, a lot of times I feel as though we may look at these different labels and we're viewing them as just adjectives, like we're just trying to describe what this child is doing in the moment. But we have to recognize that these labels can go beyond just identifying a moment, but it can actually create an identity for that child. And so these labels that you're saying, is that what you would want to see that child identify as? That's the first and pretty much only question that you have to ask yourself when placing those things upon kids. And to the young men that are here, you know, I'll tell you the pretty much the opposite of that is that whatever labels you hear, don't let those define you. You get to define who you are and who you're going to be. And you have plenty of people that are cheering you on and rooting you on and want to see the best for you. So understand that the words of others do not have to bear weight on who you identify to be.
Yeah. And let me say this. And there's nothing in life that you'll do that will always be perfect. And that's okay, because you're not supposed to be perfect. Being imperfect is part of being human. And you're looking at 3 men before you who are not perfect. We have made many mistakes. We have many flaws. And even as adults, we're still learning to grow and get better each and every day from the mistakes that we made the day before. So, like Dylan said, the things that you do are simply that. They're just things that you do, but they're not who you are. Behaviors don't define your identity.
Unless you allow
That's
them.
a work in progress. You're not perfect, and you're not supposed to be. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. The most important thing is how you recover. And you're looking at men right on this platform who are in the stage of recovery. We are recovering addicts of mistakes. We are recovering addicts of ego. We are recovering addicts of insecurity. We are recovering addicts of broken families. We are recovering, and we're trying to get it right. And that's where you all are. But I just need you to do it at your stage in life. If you're 10, do it as a 10-year-old level.
Mhm.
Don't take on the tragedies that we're dealing with, or the issues we're dealing with as 40-year-olds and 30-year-olds, right? Or 20-year-olds. It's coming. But I think the thing we want you to walk away with is, number one, give your best effort. Number two, you're not perfect and you're not supposed to be. Number three, speak up for yourself and be your biggest cheerleader, because at the end of the day, you are worth it. The last thing I want to talk about before we end this particular session is this whole idea of being a smart boy. It can be uncomfortable. And now I'm speaking from experience, because typically the smart kids in the school are the girls, and you don't want to be seen as the smart boy in the school. You're wonderful with the idea of being your mama's or your mama's baby smart boy, but being the smart boy in the classroom, that you're the teacher's pet. I think a lot of times boys try to find a way to navigate that space of being cool, being with their friends, but they want to hide their intelligence. And I'm saying, don't hide from it, lead with it.
Absolutely.
If you're smart, you're smart. There's nothing wrong with being a smart boy. That makes you even more special. That's just another check that makes you unique and awesome and amazing. So don't be afraid to be smart. Wear that with a badge of honor, because you have been gifted with that ability and that skill. And here's the thing, everybody's smart in a unique way. Somebody's very gifted in math. Somebody's very gifted in English. Somebody's gifted in science. Somebody's gifted in the arts, or they're gifted when it comes to music. Like, everybody has a gift. And so don't think that you have to be perfect everywhere. You're going to be stronger somewhere. Even if you're making all A's, there's going to be an area where you're going to make a 91. Like, that's not going to be your 99 class. Like, that's the one you had to really work to get that 92. But be comfortable with being a smart boy, because that's what makes you even more special. I'll let you guys kind of chime in on that last thought before we wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a space that's difficult to be in, and I can speak firsthand. Like, I know some of the pieces that come along with it, and some of the nuances of being the smart boy in the class. But you know what? You all really can have it all. There is no shame in being smart, and you should not hide your intelligence for anybody. You can be good at music and still be smart. You can be good at sports and still be very intelligent. You can literally do both. And so, like Chris said, don't hide it. Wear it as a cape. Let the world know how intelligent that you are.
Absolutely. One of the things that I've noticed in my current role, like I mentioned, we offer a lot of services, a lot of free services to the students that we work with each day, and I'm always surprised to see how much involvement of our female students kind of outweighs in terms of percentage of our boys. For example, we took a trip to Orlando last summer. We went to an engineering camp at Disney World. This trip was completely free to our students. They stayed in Orlando for a week. We visited colleges. We visited museums. And of course, at the end of the week, they got to spend 3 days at Disney World seeing how they build the roller coasters and attractions. One thing I noticed, and one thing I have been noticing, because this isn't the first time, is that the group that we took up to Orlando was, I think, out of 30 kids, we may have had 4 boys. Now, these opportunities were open to everyone, but I don't know if you guys are just too cool for school or what. But we've gotten to a place where we're seeing that level of engagement, that level of involvement kind of go over our guys' heads to almost where it's like, if I want to be known in school, I want to be known for sports. I want to be known for, athletics. Again, these are labels that we have adopted over time that we kind of feel kind of serve our identities in a way that is more palatable to our peers. And what we're trying to get you guys to see now is that not only is it cool to be smart, but it's cool to be educated. It's cool to be able to articulate your feelings and be able to hold a conversation with someone in a way that doesn't paint you as someone who is who doesn't care about their education. Those days are long gone. There was a time where the nerdy guys in school got picked on and got bullied. We're so far beyond that stage, and our society is so welcome of young men who can enter into a space and be intelligent that you guys don't have to worry about, again, any kind of label or negative labels that will be associated with you being intelligent. With these opportunities out here for you guys to be successful, no one should shy away from any opportunity to advance themselves because they feel like if in doing so, it'll make them look like less of a man or less of the atypical male that we see today. You can be a male, you can be a boy, you can have the identity of a man, you can be an athlete, and you can still be smart. You can still be intelligent. And even for my boys who are intelligent and are kind of in a place where they're afraid to embrace it or afraid to let it show, you don't have to do that. And when you take charge and when you step up and lead the way, I'm sure your peers will follow.
And the funny thing about it, some of these boys try to hide their intelligence, but you can't. We see it. Your teachers see it.
Exactly.
They see how smart you are. They see how gifted you are. So there's no hiding. So why not just own it and embrace it? Because it is part of who you are. It is what makes you special. And so we're going to end with that particular conversation. We're going to come back in October with another session, and we'll have more questions. Hopefully you guys come in, you have more questions or more comments and share some experiences that you've had in this first quarter of the school year. But I want to thank Mr. Nnamdi for being here. I want to thank Mr. Thomas for being here. And this is on YouTube, so this is not going anywhere. You guys continue to watch, continue to share this, continue to drop comments and questions, and we will continue to engage with you guys until we come back the next time. All right. Again, thank you guys for being a part of this. Thank you guys for participating. And for those that are that's going to join later, we welcome more conversation in the future. Until then, like I always tell you guys, be safe, be smart, be blessed, and be safe. We'll see you next time.